Joe Flacco under center, Shedeur Sanders on the bench, simple lineup card that instantly turned Cleveland's most hyped primetime matchup into an organizational earthquake. From the outside, it might look like just another coaching adjustment. But for Browns fans who packed the stadium and millions watching on TV, it felt like something far deeper, a betrayal. For 3 weeks leading up to kickoff, Sanders wasn't just promoted by the Browns, he was sold as the headline. Promo packages plastered his face everywhere. ESPN teased Sanders versus Joe Burrow as a generational duel. NFL Network broke down how his dynamic style could rattle Cincinnati. Even Amazon lined up custom camera angles specifically to track his every movement. This wasn't just hype. This was the NFL knowing it had a star on its hands, a player who could deliver highlights, spark social media, and hook younger fans. Sanders wasn't just a quarterback in waiting. He was the league's content machine. And then, an hour before kickoff, fans learned the truth. Sanders wasn't starting. He wasn't even subbing in. Instead, at 39 years old, Joe Flacco jogged out to lead the Browns offense. The energy changed instantly. Tailgaters who'd been buzzing turned stone-faced. Season ticket holders demanded answers. Inside the stadium, the chants started. Outside the stadium, social media erupted. This wasn't just a coaching decision. It was a power play and one that would shake the Browns to their core. By the end of the night, Cleveland had lost more than just a football game. They lost millions of viewers, the trust of the fan base, and the fragile unity inside their own locker room. So how did one decision spiral into fan revolt, revenue collapse, and a full-blown quarterback controversy? Let's break it down. Cleveland fans had been told this was the night. For weeks, the narrative wasn't just about a football game, it was about a showdown of futures. Shedeur Sanders versus Joe Burrow. The promo set it up like a heavyweight fight, the rookie phenom against the AFC's golden boy. National networks leaned into it. Highlight packages rolled non-stop, and by kickoff it felt like the Browns had finally found their main character. Except Shedeur never made it past warm-ups. When the game began, it was Joe Flacco taking the field. For casual viewers, it was chalked up to a veteran coach playing it safe. But for fans who'd been promised Sanders' primetime debut, it felt like a bait and switch. Chants started in the first quarter in the Browns' visitor section. By the second, "We want Shedeur" rattled across the stadium. What was billed as Sanders' arrival turned into the crowd revolting against their own sideline. And here's why it hurt so much. This wasn't just about one player. It was about trust. Cleveland has lived through decades of quarterback disasters. Tim Couch, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. The franchise finally sold hope again, told fans their future was here, then yanked it away at the last second. It wasn't just disappointing, it was cruel. Inside the stadium, the atmosphere collapsed. Fans who had paid premium ticket prices to witness Sanders' moment instead sat through conservative checkdowns from a 39-year-old quarterback. By halftime, sections were half empty. By the fourth quarter, some fans weren't even watching. They were venting in the concourse, furious at ownership, furious at the coaching staff. What was supposed to be a coronation became a mutiny. Sanders didn't throw a pass, but his absence became the defining storyline of the night. And when your most discussed play is a rookie not stepping on the field, you know something deeper is broken. If fans in the stadium felt betrayed, network executives felt blindsided. This primetime game wasn't just another AFC North matchup, it was marketed as one of the NFL's marquee showdowns of the season. Millions tuned in at kickoff, expecting fireworks. Instead, they got Joe Flacco handing off the ball and throwing 8-yard checkdowns. The numbers tell the story with brutal clarity. The broadcast opened strong, peaking at over 18 million viewers in the first quarter. But once it was clear Sanders wasn't going to play, curiosity turned into disappointment. By halftime, viewership had collapsed to just under 12 million. By the fourth quarter, barely 9 million remained. That's a near 40% drop. The kind of decline television partners describe not as a ratings dip, but a catastrophe. Advertisers were furious. Sponsors had bought slots expecting Sanders' debut to draw younger demographics, the exact audience the NFL has been desperate to capture. Instead, entire ad blocks suddenly looked like wasted money. On streaming platforms, cancellations began spiking as fans logged off. Fantasy football players vented online about their lineups being sabotaged. Even sportsbooks scrambled to refund bets and reinstate offers after the last-minute lineup change. In short, Sanders wasn't just another rookie. He was the content engine. The league had invested money, airtime, and reputation in selling him as the story. And without him, the story was gone. Post-game, insiders reported emergency calls between network executives and league offices. Some sponsors even demanded reassurances that future games wouldn't pull the same bait and switch. For the NFL, a business built on entertainment and narrative momentum, Cleveland's decision didn't just cost them one game. It threatened to shake partner confidence across the board. One source summed it up bluntly: when Shedeur doesn't play, the NFL loses money, period. Benching Sanders didn't only hurt Cleveland, it set fire to the league's bottom line. If the stadium atmosphere felt tense early, by the second quarter, it was undeniable. Cleveland fans weren't just upset, they were in open rebellion. Whole sections inside the stadium began chanting, "We want Shedeur," so loudly that CBS commentators had to acknowledge it on the broadcast. By halftime, the chants had spread across social media in real time, amplified by thousands of frustrated clips from inside the stands. By the fourth quarter, what should have been primetime excitement had turned into a surreal scene of visiting fans heckling their own sideline. The revolt wasn't contained to Cincinnati either. On Twitter, hashtags like #StartShedeur and #FireStefanski were trending nationally before halftime. One viral post summed up the collective mood in just a few words. "Only reason I tuned in tonight was Shedeur. They benched him. I'm out." That tweet racked up over 125,000 likes and quickly became the online anthem for fan frustration. Even in the stadium concourses, fans didn't quietly sulk. They walked out mid-game, venting to local reporters and vendors. Merchandise lines stopped selling Sanders jerseys. Instead, jerseys were being returned. One worker compared it to Black Friday in reverse. Everybody bringing stuff back instead of buying. The anger came from more than wasted time and money. Fans felt tricked. They'd been promised Sanders versus Burrow in every promo, every pregame highlight, every marketing campaign for weeks. Instead, they sat through conservative play calling from a 39-year-old veteran while their supposed future stared from the sideline. It didn't just feel like poor coaching, it felt like a broken promise. And Cleveland's fans, a group already scarred by decades of quarterback false starts, weren't gonna let it slide. By the final whistle, the chants weren't just about one player. They were about accountability. And for the first time, it looked like the fan base might finally have enough leverage to force the Browns' hand. If the chants in the stands shook the stadium, the silence inside the Browns' locker room after the game was even louder. Players didn't need reporters to tell them the offense looked lifeless. They had lived it. Throughout training camp and preseason, Sanders had been the one sparking energy in scrimmages and lighting up highlight reels. Wide receivers loved his velocity on intermediate throws. Offensive linemen said his mobility made their jobs easier. Even defensive leaders admitted he kept them sharper in practice. Then, in prime time, they watched all of that preparation vanish as Joe Flacco led a stagnant, predictable offense. The frustration showed quickly. According to multiple insiders, offensive players who'd spent weeks building chemistry with Sanders grumbled at having to suddenly adjust to Flacco's slower release and limited range. Receivers openly questioned the play calling. Running backs noted a defense sitting on predictable runs. And the defense itself forced to bail out a flat offense yet again, was seen venting after drive stalled. Publicly, veterans tried to toe the line. Myles Garrett called it the coach's decision, though his tone said plenty. Nick Chubb, still working back from injury, mumbled about trusting the process, through what reporters described as gritted teeth. The younger players, though, weren't nearly so subtle. Several were spotted liking social media posts, ripping Stefanski's choice, effectively broadcasting their dissent without saying a word. The most telling moment, one veteran was overheard by media in the hallway saying, "If the kid gives us a better chance, play him. Simple." That simple sentence crystallized what everyone inside already knew. This wasn't about development anymore. It was about ego. And the decision had fractured the locker room into two camps: those who wanted to believe in the coach and those who already believed in Sanders. When players stop buying into leadership, things collapse fast. Cleveland wasn't there yet, but the cracks were widening by the hour. For Browns fans, Stefanski's decision looked like stubbornness. For ownership, it looked like sabotage. Jimmy Haslam had made his position clear back in April. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just another rookie. He was the franchise centerpiece. The front office had bypassed safer draft routes to grab him, rolled out a full media campaign, and bet millions in marketing revenue on the excitement he would generate. Sanders wasn't a side project. He was the entire business plan. That's why Week 1's decision stung far deeper than football. Stefanski didn't just bench a quarterback. He undercut the owner's strategy, defied the front office vision, and threw months of planning into chaos. Sponsorship campaigns had been built around Shedeur's face. Streaming partners had tied promotions to his debut. Ticket packages were marketed on the promise that Cleveland's future was now. Overnight, the future was standing on the sideline holding a clipboard. Insiders say Haslam's reaction went beyond frustration, it was fury. During the game itself, ownership reps reportedly relayed ratings data to him in real time as viewership sank. Every drop wasn't just lost eyeballs, it was lost money. One source described it bluntly: when Shedeur sits, millions vanish. To league circles, Stefanski's move didn't look like strategy, it looked like defiance. Coaches across the NFL talk often about control, but rarely do they stage such a visible standoff with ownership. By refusing to insert Sanders, even as the score tightened late, Stefanski sent his message loudly: "This is my decision, not Haslam's." But if Stefanski thought he won that battle, he may have miscalculated. Ownership has the one weapon no coach can fight: leverage. And when a coach costs money, costs ratings, and fractures the locker room, owners don't hesitate to strike. Insiders say Haslam's reaction went beyond frustration. It was fury. During the game itself, ownership reps reportedly relayed ratings data to him in real time as viewership sank. Every drop wasn't just lost eyeballs, it was lost money. One source described it bluntly: when Shedeur sits, millions vanish. To league circles, Stefanski's move didn't look like strategy. It looked like defiance. Coaches across the NFL talk often about control, but rarely do they stage such a visible standoff with ownership. By refusing to insert Sanders even as the score tightened late, Stefanski sent his message loudly: "This is my decision, not Haslam's." But if Stefanski thought he won that battle, he may have miscalculated. Ownership has the one weapon no coach can fight: leverage. And when a coach costs Mo, that's why by Monday morning, the whispers weren't about when Shedeur might start. They were about how much longer Staney. Costs ratings and fractures the locker room. Owners don't hesitate to strike. Analysts who never agree on anything spoke with rare unanimity. The benching wasn't strategy, it was ego. And it wasn't just talk shows. Vegas felt it too. Sportsbooks had set lines under the assumption Sanders would start. When he didn't, the chaos was immediate. Odds shifted mid-game, fantasy owners erupted at being stuck with locked-in Sanders lineups, and FanDuel had to issue refunds on Sanders-related prop bets. DraftKings reported a surge in customer complaints, with one rep saying it was the ugliest night for customer service all season. The NFL office was equally rattled. League execs had invested heavily in marketing Sanders as part of the NFL's next wave of young stars. His face had been featured alongside C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams in promos targeting Gen Z viewers. By benching him in such a heavily promoted showdown, Cleveland had inadvertently undermined one of the league's biggest storylines. Behind closed doors, owners from other franchises expressed concern to the commissioner about competitive integrity and entertainment value. In blunt terms, Sanders wasn't just a rookie. He was content, and Stefanski had pulled the plug on the show. The message from every corner of the NFL world was clear. Cleveland's decision wasn't sustainable. Something had to change, or the backlash would only get louder. If Sunday night was a disaster, Monday morning marked the Aftershocks. And this time, the tremors were coming from inside Shedeur Sanders' own camp. Publicly, Shedeur stayed professional. He didn't blast his coaches. He didn't post any fiery comments online. But silence can tell its own story. And his absence from social media right after the game felt strategic. Instead, subtle leaks began surfacing. Rumors that his representatives had already reached out to the Browns' front office for clarification on his timeline. According to insiders, that request wasn't framed as a trade demand just yet, but it was a clear warning shot. We need answers, or this relationship won't hold long. Then, Deion Sanders stepped in on his own terms. He didn't call a press conference or name names, but his posts hit just as hard. One cryptic Instagram message read, "Know your worth. Don't let anyone tell you when it's your time." To fans, that wasn't vague. It was a direct jab at Cleveland's mishandling of his son. Within minutes, the caption was splashed all over Twitter, adding fuel to a fire the Browns were desperately trying to contain. Meanwhile, the league's business ecosystem dug in deeper. Agents across the NFL were suddenly inserting new clauses to protect young quarterbacks from what one termed the Shedeur situation. Contracts specifying playing commitments or competitive assurances. The NFLPA reportedly began looking into whether Stefanski's decision undermined the principles of competitive integrity the league sells to fans. On top of that, other franchises immediately started circling. Whispers emerged that multiple GMs were quietly monitoring Sanders' availability, framing Cleveland's dysfunction as an opportunity. Media segments even speculated possible trade destinations if the situation continued downhill. From one primetime benching, Cleveland had spiraled into a storm involving player loyalty, family influence, league optics, and even collective bargaining. What started as a coach's choice had now mutated into a league-wide debate, and the Browns organization was right in the center of it. When the dust settled, Sunday night's benching wasn't remembered for final scores or stat lines. It was remembered as the moment Cleveland's fragile foundation cracked in plain sight. Kevin Stefanski thought he was sending a message of authority. Instead, he exposed his insecurity. He benched not just a quarterback, but the Browns' marketing plan, ownership's vision, and the hopes of an exhausted fan base that had finally been told they had their franchise savior. With one decision, he managed to alienate ownership, split the locker room, lose the fans, crater ratings, and enrage the national press, all in the span of 3 hours under the lights. The irony cuts the sharpest here. Shedeur Sanders didn't have to throw a single pass to be the star of the night. His absence defined the game. His face trended higher than the score. His silence carried more weight than Stefanski's explanations. That's when you know a rookie has already transcended the system. when fans would rather rage about you not playing than celebrate anyone else who did. For ownership, the financial damage was undeniable. For the league, the marketing disaster was embarrassing. For the locker room, the trust between players and coaches took a hit that may not be repairable. And yet for fans, the conclusion is the simplest of all. They didn't just want Shedeur, they needed him. History will likely judge this as the most destructive coaching decision of the Browns' modern era. Not because it cost one game, but because it revealed how out of sync Cleveland really is. The NFL thrives on stars, on storylines, on spectacle. You don't bury your most electric rookie on the bench during the league's biggest stage. The fans have already cast their votes. The networks made their anger known. And the scoreboard of public opinion is crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders isn't just Cleveland's quarterback of the future, he's the quarterback of right now. The only question left is how long it will take the Browns to finally realize it.